the sword as a metaphor for, or the power of life. Now, why would the sword appear in ceremonial and initiatic settings such as Freemasonry, ceremonial magic, and the neo-pagan movement of Wicca? Well, if you look behind me, you can see this painting, which is based on a Masonic tracing board. And you can see two European-style swords, one pointing at a heart and one at the volume of sacred law or a sacred text. In ceremonial magic, of course, the sword is associated with the element of air, the classical or Platonic element of air, which itself is then related to the mind, or I think more accurately, the intellect. We're going to take a look at the sword. We're going to take a look at its parts and see what we can make of it. Now, this is a Chinese sword, a Dondao. It's a little more convenient for me to hold this, and a little more impressive perhaps looking at a painting in the distance. Let's think about the different parts of this and other swords. We have the pommel, the grip, the guard, the blade, and the point of the blade. Now, metaphorically or spiritually or intellectually, what do these represent? Let's think about the grip. Now, in Freemasonry, we do find the term grip, but more often in our language, we talk about having a grip on a particular subject or having a good grasp of a particular subject. What does that mean? It means that we understand the subject, perhaps that we can recall the more important elements to mind. Maybe we've even memorized it, but we understand it. So grip, grasp, to have an understanding. Let's go back to the pommel. Now, what is it doing? It is a weight that counterbalances that of the blade, of course. Now, very often in ceremonial settings, you will find people who hold the handle or the grip of the sword in the middle. Now, why is that? Simple. They do not know what they are doing. You hold a sword next to the guard, right behind the guard. Why? First of all, because this extra weight is what's balancing the blade and enables you to move it freely around. You're not being dragged down by the weight of the blade. You're able to move it around very smoothly, even though it may be heavy. This weight here is counterbalancing it to make it easier to maneuver. So that is the first reason. Of course, we're also protecting our hand with the guard. So what is the guard as a metaphor? Well, the guard is guarding our thoughts, guarding our speech, guarding our mind, as it were. Now, when we are learning a subject, before we have fully grasped it, we don't want to talk about it so much, boasting, making wrong statements. We want to guard our thoughts. And the weight, what is that? That is the weight of the subject, the weight of the duty to understand it, to learn it, the weight of responsibility in learning, the weight of responsibility, guarding our mind, having a thorough grip on the subject. What about the blade? Well, the blade obviously is sharp. Now, we talk about someone having a sharp mind, a sharp intellect, or sometimes a sharp wit. What does that mean? If gripping or grasping or having a good grip or having a good grasp means to understand a subject, what does it mean to have a sharp mind? It means someone who is able to take that knowledge and to dissect it, to break it down, not in a negative sense, but to be able to break it down into its parts, to dissect it, to understand each of the parts, just as we are doing with the sword, and to be able to understand it at a higher level than they have been taught, to be able to go beyond the teachings, to really fully integrate it into themselves, to make it really fully a tool that they can use at any time. Now, after that, after the sharpness of the blade, we have the point. Now, we often talk about what's your point when you're saying something. Something we say or anything we say should have a point. We often find intellectuals or pseudo-intellectuals people who think they're very clever and very moral, who never make a point but use big words that which they think are fooling us into thinking that they are very intelligent. These people can fool lesser intelligent people, obviously, but they are ultimately forgotten by history. They are forgotten even by their peers because they have no point. They're just sort of filler. They are vanilla. We don't know what they want except to promote themselves. A life must have a point, and everything we say must have a point. Let's take a look at it again. We have the weight of learning, the responsibility of learning, the weight of knowledge. Think of Odin, who was said to appear unhappy after he gained knowledge of the future. So the weight of knowledge, a good grip on our subject, guarding our thoughts, cultivating a sharp mind, and speaking with a point. Now, what is a sword for? It is a weapon, of course, to strike down the enemy. And what is the enemy in a spiritual sense? Well, it is not accepting the weight of responsibility. It is not having a good grasp on a particular subject, understanding things in a shallow way, maybe not even trying to understand them, not guarding our thoughts, not guarding our speech, having not a sharp intellect, but a dull one. And then a point, not having a point, very definitely the enemy. To live a life without a point, to speak without a point, of course, this is spiritually horrific. If we don't have a point to our life, we don't embody our will, we don't have a purpose, we are going to end up with a dull mind. We're going to end up speaking unguardedly, saying all kinds of stupid things, or maybe kind of trying to fool people with some kind of pseudo-intellectual babble. We definitely will not have a grasp on any subject because we will not have the will to stick with it, and we definitely won't accept the weight of responsibility. That is the way of a psychopath, and we want to move away from that as much as possible. So accept the responsibility, grasp your subject, guard your thoughts, sharpen your mind, and live with a point. Thanks very much. You can check out angelmiller.com if you want to know more about me.